The Rough Drafts podcast is sponsored by Unicorn.com, the world's premier esports betting site. Bet on your favorite games like CSGO, Dota 2, and League of Legends, and earn Unikoins through successful bets, or use Unicorn's exclusive Connect program, where you can earn Unikoins just by playing some of your favorite games. Use your earnings to enter Unicorn's raffles for exciting prizes like Logitech peripherals or CSGO skins. So join Chase and Walter and prove who really is the esports gambling expert. Unicorn.com. Log on today.
Hello Internet, this is Chase, RedShirtKing Wassenar, and welcome to a very special edition of the Rough Drafts podcast. You know, Walter and I, we are men of integrity, I think it's safe to say. If you've listened to this pod before,
I'm more of a man of leisure.
I mean,
more of a man of leisure.
That's fine, but I think that one of the things that we like to do is admit when we're wrong, you know, because you can't get everything right when you make your predictions at the end of the year. We throw our genuine feelings out there and try to get a good handle on where these things are going to go. And, you know, it's very easy to throw out predictions at the beginning of the year. It's a lot harder to go back and check yourself and see what you got right, what you got wrong, and try to figure out what you can learn from it. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Walter Ceades, Fedczuk.
No. You don't get to introduce me anymore.
Oh.
I have to do my own introductions here because you don't introduce me correctly.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Walter Ceades Fedczuk, and I am your 2017 Spring Split Guest Aligned Champion!
That is true.
That is the correct introduction for a man of my status, okay? I am a champion. Treat me as such.
That is true. You're a champion twofold, because not only did you win the event, but TSM. That's just how these things go. But we're not going to start with TSM, Walter. We're going to start with the team that you thought was going to be the 10th place team this season, and that was Envious. And I think you had some words to say this season about the ceiling on some of these players. So let's go listen to what you had to say back then.
Overall, not excited about this roster. I guess they have the triple Korean synergy that worked out so well for them last split, especially at the beginning of the split. But I just think that the ceiling is just not very high on all 5 of these players.
Yeah. So, Walter, do you think that you ended up being mostly right with those predictions? Like, do you feel confident in how these things kind of played out?
I truly feel like, obviously Envious agrees with me on Ninja because Ninja's gone. He's out of here. They kicked him like the second they were able to in the offseason. So Ninja's gone. I thought his ceiling was really, really low, and I thought he constantly hit it. Like, he was the player we expected him to be, and he had moments where I was like, yeah, that's Ninja at his best. But Ninja at his best is the 10th best mid laner in North America. Maybe even like 12th. Like, there's probably some challenger mid you could have brought in. Guys on Envious's bench. I think Alex Each would have been a better mid laner over, you know, the long term, over the entire season than Ninja was. Seraph, we know who Seraph is at this point. You camp him and he's not a lot of shot call. Things kind of fall apart. He's able to go off. He's a split push monster. He can actually, you know, is set up for success. He can really control team fights. We already know that about him. The bot lane, I think, was interesting because Apollo and Hakuo, I think we know where their ceilings are, but they don't reach them enough. Like, their ceilings are actually pretty good. Apollo is a pretty decent AD carry. He can be a good third option on a team. The problem is he's always being thrust into these situations where, like, no, we need you to be, you know, our second carry. We need you to be our primary option. Or, you know, in the case of Dignitas, we pair you with Keen, and we have, like, 2 guys that shouldn't be the number 1 option on their team. Hakuo, I think, is a strong support. I think he's carrying the mantle of sort of the Kiwi Kid style of, I'm going to make a play. I will always make a play. It might not always be the right play, but it's going to be a play. And sometimes you get really good plays out of it, and sometimes you get really bad plays out of it. And all I know is when you play your play, you play your play. So there's that, and then there's Lyra.
Yes.
Lyra broke any ceiling that I had set for him. He was an absolutely fantastic jungler and almost solo carried this team to 9th place.
Yes.
Which isn't to down talk Lyra, but at the same time, the team around him just wasn't good enough for his skill. I would really love to see him someplace else. Dignitas, maybe? Hello?
Yeah.
Possibly. If you're looking for a jungler who speaks Korean. May I present you the all-pro jungler Lyra? He is a good offering to the table of someday, and I think they can work wondrously together. But that being said, yeah, Envious was Envious. They were the worst team, and they survived relegation. Good for them.
Yeah, no, Lyra is really good at League of Legends. I would go so far as to say there's a good argument that he was the best player this season. Obviously, he's not the MVP because they didn't win enough games, and that's something like you can't say that you're the most valuable player if the position they get with you is as good as it would be without you, because it literally couldn't have gotten worse. But I think the guy certainly is incredibly talented, and I think that depending on who Envious goes out and gets this offseason, maybe they'll turn things around. The next team on our list turned things around a little bit more than we expected. Echo Fox is who you had at 9th. They ended up getting 8th, but I think that you did a pretty good job identifying the problem. So let's listen to you point out the key flaw in Echo Fox's plan. So, Walter, first thoughts when you look at these roster changes here.
Why is Keith still on an LCS roster? I'm surprised Froggen's still here. I would have thought maybe he would retire, but he must really love playing the game. So, cool. Yeah. Good for him. It's a League of Legends roster. It's not the worst. It's definitely not the best. I don't even know if it hits mediocre though. At some point, we've learned that Looper isn't very good without Mata. We've learned that. Acadian has been a jungler that's kind of toiled in the challenger scene. He does have some potential to be a breakout like Dardoch, but he wasn't as good as Dardoch in the challenger scene. He was much less consistent. And then Gate, Gate impressed me as a support last split. I'll be honest, he actually impressed me. I'm glad to still see him on a team. I think he's worthy of being, one of the 10 supports in the LCS. But overall, just there's nothing on this roster that sets a fire in my belly, and there's nothing in this roster that's ooh, that's really bad. There's no 0-17 LSPL mid laner on this roster. Let's put it that.
So, yeah, Keith is still a thing. And as far as I know so far this offseason, he's still a thing.
Oh, my God. God damn it. Rick, dude. I know you like your people. I know you like your kind of family atmosphere. Bro's got to go, man. This bro's got to go. This is you got to remember when you were on the Lakers, dude. If you didn't perform, Kobe would have kicked your butt out the locker room door so fast Phil Jackson wouldn't have been able to hit you with some wise saying to impart upon the rest of your life while he handed you your pink slip. You would have been out. If Keith was Kobe's player, Keith would have been sitting on a us bench a year ago with a paper over his head trying to keep the rain from falling down as his life just crashes around him. I don't wish any ill onto Keith, but damn, dude, you are bad at League of Legends. Rick needs to stop giving you a chance and needs to move on if he ever wants this team to be more than we didn't get relegated, yay! Because it's seriously damaging Froggen's career at this point.
I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't think that Froggen's career is ever going to be anything other than a Hall of Fame career. He's done too much in the early seasons. The youngins might not remember, but us old school veterans, we know how good he was. I did think that Acadian was a pleasant surprise.
Acadian was good. I liked Acadian. Acadian was very solid.
That was a guy we weren't as convinced on, and he surprised us. It's oh God. But it's one of those things where I think that I wish Keith the best of success in whatever post League of Legends career he decides to have.
Just go stream. Go be Cutie Pie 2.0. Just go stream, dude.
Yeah, you're a great guy.
Wear a toucan mask. Just go for Le Toucan. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, embrace the memes. And there's another team that we got to talk about. You had them at 8th. I had them at 8th. They're a team with a history of embracing memes, but they decided not to meme their way out of the split. They actually managed to fight their way to 4th, and that's FlyQuest, team that a lot of people were very angry about what we had to say. Let's see what you had to say, Walter. Why were people so angry at us? Let's find out.
So I'm excited watching this roster because I think this is the last ride. I think this is the one last ride for a couple of these players. I think Lemonation and High mechanically are not necessarily up to snuff with the rest of their competitors. I think High comes in as the 9th or 10th best mid laner in North America, and everyone's gonna go, but High is a great shot caller, but High has played multiple positions in his career. We'll get to all that stuff later. I'm gonna talk about that shot calling a little bit, because everyone's just gonna talk about that. That's all I can hear on Twitter is his amazing shot calling about how this team is gonna be a playoff team. But for Lemonation and High, I think this truly is their last ride. I think for Balls, this is probably his last ride. If there was a guy that really needed like a change of scenery and kind of break out of the mold that he's been put in, get away from those Diamond 2 memes and all that jazz, I think he really needed to try and separate himself from these other guys and not just turn into, Looper light in terms of he needs to have High like Looper needs to have Mata. And then you look at Moon and Alltech, and I think...
So, Walter, last ride turns out to be pretty strong phrasing here. How do you feel now, having seen FlyQuest exceed all of our expectations?
Well, Reginald, let me just sip on this fine brandy real quick. You see, the problem with League of Legends is that the spring-summer off-season is not a time for very great change. There's not a lot of roster movement going around because people don't sign 3-month contracts. They usually sign full-year ones, so they end up being signed until late November after Worlds. That being said, not a lot of players that deserve to be replaced get replaced, and 3 members of this squad need to be replaced. 2 of them old-timers of the LCS scene that played in the summer of 2013 in Balls and Lemonation. They are way past their prime, and unlike a fine brandy, the more age you have on a bad LCS player, the sourer the vintage. And that leaves us with Alltech. And Alltech is a bad investment. He's one of those toxic funds that you had those expeditions in the 1800s to go find new trade explorations across the world. And, Alltech is sort of like ending up in Greenland and calling it Greenland to try and confuse people and get them to move there. And then they show up and it's ice fields and volcanoes. So yes, I still think this entire year is a last ride for High, last gasp for his career, so to speak. Moon is going to be a pleasant surprise for another team next year, but if they do not make Worlds, I would not expect to see High, Lemonation, or Balls set foot on an LCA stage ever again. You can quote me, Sir Walter Ceades Fedczuk, Esquire the Third, PhD.
Yeah, I mean, all of that, but also just as much as they got 4th, and we got to give them credit for that, they did come back against CLG. They got the reverse sweep there. CLG should have won that series about 10 different moments, and they would have won that series if it hadn't been one of the biggest failed blunders in playoffs. And we'll get to the guy who did that in a bit, but
Chase, it's just like the Atlanta Falcons should have won the Super Bowl if they stopped Tom Brady from scoring at any single point. You keep giving me such easy ways to bring it up. I have to take it. You
really
yes,
don't.
Do.
But I think
do.
that we have to take a little bit of a little bit of time to respect that they did a lot better than we thought they would at the beginning of the season. We thought the arc that we said was that they were going to be good early and then they were going to fall off completely. And while that did happen, it happened later than we thought it was going to. So now the key is going to be, what is their next plan? Because they can't rely on these sort of pocket picks that helped them through that CLG series, that helped them get the couple wins that they needed to, even sneak their way into the playoffs after they were almost on the outside looking in. So, I think there are a lot of question marks that FlyQuest needs to answer. But if you're a FlyQuest fan, Yeah, you get to lord this one over us. We were off. We did not think that it was going to last as long as it did. Certainly didn't think it would hold up in a playoff series, which it did. And they did battle Phoenix One a lot closer than we thought. But before we get into any of that, Walter, this was the next team was a team that you and I disagreed on. I had hopes in them. You realized that the fact that I was rooting for them meant that things could not possibly end well. And that team is Immortals. Walter, let's see what you had to say about this roster and how you felt about them heading into the season.
Well, luckily, there's a tournament on in like 3 days that I get to watch. And granted, I gotta take it with a grain of salt. They had like 1 day of practice together. They were all, different country. Nobody cares about IEMs. And then I watched it. And Pobelter was great. The Bash brothers were excellent, dude. And then the bot lane. Holy cow. The bot lane looks awful. It looks very, very bad. They do not look like they belong together in the LCS.
So yeah, clearly you were a little bit worried about IEM Gyeonggi and what that meant. Do you feel like that is the same problem that we had going in? Because I kind of feel like it was a different set of problems that ultimately did them in.
It was, but the overarching problem was that you were rooting for them to succeed. And as I've learned, anything that you touch that you love kind of just turns to ash in your hands when it comes to sports teams and esports teams.
You're not.
I think the rest of your life you're absolutely fantastic with. I think that everything that happens is great. That being said, I said the Bash brothers were great. The Bash brothers were great up until there's apparently news that they're replacing Dardoch with Xmithy. Okay. All right, whatever. I said Pobelter was great. Pobelter was not great. Pobelter was hot garbage for about 8 weeks if this was Europe, but 7 weeks of the regular season. And then the bot lane was like bad to start with, but then you could tell Cody was getting his legs underneath him as the year went on, and he was finally starting to figure it out. And towards the end of the year, it looked like he was having a decent career. Like he was figuring it out. He was dealing a lot of damage, unlike that sit and pulled investment over on FlyQuest. So yeah, I was like pleasantly surprised with how Cody Sung ended the year. I still think Ale is. I kind of gave the mantle of the Kiwi kid to Hakuo. I don't think Ale tries to make as many plays as Hakuo does. I think Ale is a lot more reserved, and when he does make plays, it's few and far between. He really relies on the rest of the team. And this team really at its core came down to, well, does Dardoch pop off, and does he get, Flame or Cody to pop off? And the answer was yeah, but it wasn't enough for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah. The number of series where they would win game 1 and look great doing it, and then lose game 2 super close, and then get completely annihilated in game 3 was just too damn high. It's a problem when you have a team that is inconsistent, and some of the personality stuff has to be a factor here. As much as I like Dardoch as a mechanical strong player, I think that we've seen now that he does have these kinds of tilting issues, and I think that this is a team that wrong place at the wrong peaks at the wrong time and couldn't quite put it together enough. It says something that all they had to do was beat the 2 worst teams in the league in week 6, and they would have been a playoff team, and they just couldn't get that done. I think that's something that Immortals are certainly going to have to look into. They've already started to make some changes as far as the coaching side of things in the past, and then now I think they're going to have to look again and see, well, what do they need? Xmithy is the answer that we're hearing they're going to start with, and we'll have to see whether that properly tackles the issues that they're looking for here. But speaking of a team that has some issues to tackle, Team Liquid, you and I, we were low on them. We had our concerns, but we still put them in the playoffs. We were not strong enough in our convictions to say, no, this team is not going to be good enough. And Team Liquid was not good enough. So let's look at exactly where you identified the biggest problem with Team Liquid.
My problem with Liquid, I currently have them as probably 7th. They are probably going to be fighting for that 6th seed. They're going to just barely be on the outside looking in, because I can't trust Piglet. I cannot trust him for a 9-week season.
So yeah, Piglet might be an issue. Turns out that didn't work out the way that they expected.
Did I do that? Oops. Oh, who would have thought that it would have been Piglet? Who would have thought? Who could have thought? Who could have potentially predicted this? Steve Liquid 122 or 112 Aaron set? I always forget if it's 2 1s or 2 2s. I don't really care, but God, I wish someone could have predicted it. I wish someone could have told you to your face on multiple times on this podcast, on Twitter, so many times that you had made the wrong decision and you were making a bad business decision and you were an idiot. And I don't care that you were completely hands off while you were working on some mega deal with Magic Johnson. I just wonder who on this planet potentially could have told you that Piglet was an issue and was a bad investment. And if he is still on this roster for the summer, God damn it. I'm going to have an aneurysm. Like, are you kidding me?
There are clear concerns, I think it's safe to say.
God.
And, you know, I gotta say, I understand where a lot of their problems could, where they could have made the decisions that they did, right? I mean, Piglet is mechanically a guy that has his moments. He's done very well in lane with something like Caitlyn. The problem is just his ability to turn that into big plays when it matters most. His team fighting, his positioning in those kinds of situations. And in the mid lane, his laning was just not very good once people figured out that you just have to make him farm under tower, and he is not.
Don't let him kill you. That's basically what it comes down to. Oh, if he doesn't kill you, he doesn't get gold. Okay.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't think that the guys around him held up much either. Matt, I think, took a step back, which is something that I don't think we saw coming. Lorlo is a guy who they were really counting on to do great things. That didn't quite pan out. I didn't think he played poorly. I just didn't think he played particularly well either. Rainover was a guy that we were expecting his shot calling influence to really be a big boost for this team, and it didn't quite get there. So, we saw the Piglet problem, but I think we didn't see the rest of these problems, and that's why we thought they were going to be a playoff team anyway. And, I mean, we were wrong, but it was a foreseeable issue that then snowballed with other issues into a team that now has a lot of questions to answer going into the split. Because guess what? You don't have double lift anymore. And you're not going to get bailed out another time with that. So we'll see. Maybe TSM sends a Wild Turtle at week 7 of next season. Who knows? It's going to be great. I love that cooperation there. Keep it alive, guys. Let's talk about CLG. Because CLG is a team that, you and I had very differing opinions on. I was high on them. You said that this was a team that, maybe some of these synergies were about to, can only amount to so much. But let's see what you had to say about their decision to not make changes heading into the season.
I would say that the moves they made this offseason were actually pretty logical. I would say it was pretty logical of them not to make any moves. I'm surprised by the intelligence that this organization has shown in the 2017 offseason. But I'm a little counter logic. Because contrary to every fiber of my being, I'm actually pleasantly surprised with this team and looking forward to watching them, which is exceptionally weird for me. It's a weird feeling.
So, Walter, you were excited that they ran it back. We thought that was going to be a positive. Do you still feel it was the right decision to run it back?
Yeah, I still feel like it was the right decision unless you're going to spend a whole bunch of money. And just from everything I've heard, CLG doesn't have a whole lot of money to go out and spend kind of frivolously. I mean, this was a roster that, a split earlier had been playing in MSI, was against SKT, was sort of holding their own. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there was a drop off. Darshan definitely was playing worse. Smithy's kind of fallen off some. I don't think the meta really suits Stixxay. Hui is really kind of a flip of a coin, but he does have these moments where all of a sudden he clutches it out and he can have some phenomenal games on a ton of different champions. I don't disagree with that. That being said, like we said, Smithy potentially going to Immortals, like sometimes you do need to shake it up. You do need to try something when you seem like you're stuck in a rut, and that's what CLG does feel like after the summer and now this spring. They do sort of feel like they're kind of stuck in a rut, and they're trying something to shake things up and to make things a little fresher. I really don't think Dardoch is the correct answer for this team. I truly do not think that Dardoch is the correct answer. I think they need someone that is way more focused on team fighting and kind of late game and macro decision making. I think Rainover would be perfect here. I think you send Dardoch back to Team Liquid. You get rid of Piglet if you're Team Liquid, and you send Rainover over to CLG. I think that makes all three teams better. CLG probably has the better payoff just because Rainover is such a cerebral player, and it's kind of a better version of Xmithy. But yeah, Dardoch to CLG worries me a little because he doesn't seem like he fits their culture, their style, their system, and I don't see him adapting to play this sort of more macro late game team fight rotational play.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting decision, right? And it's something that obviously we have to wait till these things are finalized because details could change at the last minute. But it's certainly an interesting decision. I think that. You put them at the fifth spot. That is indeed what they got, and I think that they could have done better. Right? That this is a team that was also one game away from making it to that semifinal round, and we're talking about them probably very differently if that happens. I think that what you need in that spot and what they were missing was that guy who could be a leader and step up and say, "Guys, I know we lost game 3, or I know we lost game 4, but we've still got this. We're still the better team here. We have to keep our composure." And unfortunately, I don't think that they had that guy this season. I think that, they were looking like maybe they'd found it, and then you had, Darshan kind of panic and go for a play, and suddenly things kind of snowballed away from themselves from there. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I think that if you're looking for what's going to make your team better, you can either say, maybe we needed a more talented guy in that spot who could have hard carried things better, but I think the better thing would be having a guy that meshes with your team and can be that leader role on the Rift, keep them communication coming, keep the smart, intelligent calls coming. And yeah, I am worried about Dardoch being that guy as well. Who we weren't worried about heading into the season? Phoenix One. I was a little bit lower on them than you. I had some concerns in other areas, but
mate, it's all good.
Yeah. You had them at third. They ended up getting fourth, and I think that if I remember correctly, you had a couple comments about them being a potential sleeper. Let's go see what you had to say about that.
I'm so excited to talk about this team. I feel like everyone's gonna pick this team as a sleeper, but I don't care. I'll hop on that bandwagon because I think they got a pretty solid team here.
Solid. I don't. So should they have been a sleeper? Is that the team that we look back now and say that we couldn't have seen this coming, or were these pieces that were going to come together inevitably?
I think the argument that was like, oh yeah, everyone's calling him a sleeper. I think when everyone's calling something a sleeper, we can't call it a sleeper. Like when everyone's like, oh yeah, I totally see them doing well, you can't be like, oh, well, I was the first one that saw it coming. Like everyone at the beginning of the season was like, yeah, Phoenix One's going to play pretty well. All the pieces sort of meshed together. It wasn't until the sort of falling out between Adrian and Honori that things sort of kind of sunk. At the end of the day, I don't think Phoenix One's problem was necessarily their roster. I think it was just the two rosters that were above them were that much better and had that cohesion, and it pretty much been all together. They made one change apiece, really, and they were minor changes. They were, supplementary players in actuality, and just those two teams were just straight up better. But I think Phoenix One definitely proved that they deserve to be that third team. From the very first moment of the season, they were proving like, no, we should be, up there with contendership. And up until that last week against TSM and Cloud9, they were. Up until they got 4-0'd by them, they were. Up until even in the playoffs, up until Cloud9 3-0'd them, everyone was like, well, Cloud9 could take the series from Phoenix One could take the series from Cloud9, and then they do stand kind of a good shot against TSM, but I would say up until the last couple weeks of the season, everyone still considered them, they're potential contenders for a title.
Yeah, no, I think that certainly there was a lot of buzz around them because, people were very high on Ryu and Arrow. I think that Ryu is a guy that we've seen plenty of in the Western scene, and we know that he's very good. I think that Arrow, we had questions whether it was going to be Arrow or Hirchani that was going to prove to be the better part of that KT bot lane. There were a couple YouTube comments looking back. I was surprised by how many people are like, oh yeah, but Arrow can't put 3 good games together in a row. Like, he's just too inconsistent. Turns out the MVP of the 2017 NA Spring Split did not have consistency problems. And I will give you credit for this. You called Inori as a potential breakout player, and I think that absolutely ended up being the case. It's funny because one of the positions I don't think either of us would have ever questioned was the support position. And that ended up being this weird revolving door for him. And now Stunt has been dropped. Adrian is obviously off the roster as well. So I don't know what their plan is now.
Get Arrow a support, please, God. Get him a support.
So you don't like our new not so slim Shady in the bot lane? No?
Get him a real support, please. Actually spend some money and get a real support, for God's sakes.
We'll see. I mean, shout out to Shady. You did your best, man. I don't mean to send some hate your way. It's just, yeah. So, Cloud9, you had them third.
Yep.
You had some very strong opinions about Cloud9. I think that you made some fans not very happy with you. And let's see exactly what you were so disappointed with when it came to Cloud9 heading into the season. Pans out. But, Walter, overall, what did you think of their offseason?
Boring. Uninspired. Replacing Meteos with contracts was the worst kept secret since, I don't know, week 4 of the last split. They haven't done anything to wow me. I know what all these players are. I know what they're capable of. I know what their floors are. I know what their ceilings are. I get it. Yeah, they were second place last split. They knocked off Immortals twice. That was pretty cool. Again, I think that was more about Immortals, choking and not really preparing themselves and not being ready for the big time than it had anything to do with Cloud9 being this amazing team. And it's really weird that I'm, as a TSM fan, am bored of Cloud9's success when I've been successful in North America since season goddamn 1. But
yeah, you keep drinking the haterade, man. That's all you know. You enjoy
I guess. It's just
the Cloud9 fans listening right now are just taking all the salt and getting ready
go
for
ahead.
the next meal.
Straight up, I understand it. Not all of my criticism and dislike for this team is necessarily justified, but people say Cloud9, I'm like, okay,
yeah. So you said they were boring and uninspired in their decisions heading into the season.
Yes.
They did end up being a finalist, and they did end up being this close to being our champions this season. Do you still believe that this was a boring and uninspired offseason?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I none of my views on Cloud9 have changed at all. Absolutely nothing. I would say Jensen had a couple moments in that finals where he was about to, hit that moment where we do have to start saying, okay, yeah, Jensen can hang with Bjergsen. But I go back, and every time it seems like Jensen does beat Bjergsen, it is through heavy influence of the rest of the map. And that's not necessarily Jensen's fault. But if you go back and you watch that game 3 when he's on Syndra, it's not because he's hitting every single sphere and he's, making Bjergsen blow all of his summoners and he's doing it himself. No, it was heavy influence from the top lane and heavy influence from the jungle. It's not Jensen's fault, but at the end of the day, that team lost, and it was because, Jensen didn't play fantastic in that game 5. He had a pretty mediocre game. And I don't think you can equate Jensen with Bjergsen. I think he's a good 2, and I don't think anybody's close to him at number 2. But he still has not reached the same tier Bjergsen is. Bjergsen is in the S tier all by himself when it comes to North American mid laners. And don't come at me about this. That is my opinion, and he has done nothing to change it. And you coming at me on Twitter saying, oh, but you're wrong, isn't going to change my opinion either. I don't think Sneaky got better. I don't think Impact got better. The player who improved the most on that team was Ray. And
yes,
we saw Ray for 10, maybe 15 games over the course of the entire season. And I still stand by my point. I think now this summer is going to be a transition. Ray is going to transition more into the full-time starter. And Impact is getting ready to retire. I think that's what it comes down to. So, yeah, I would not change a single thought that I had about Cloud9 at all.
Yeah. Ray played 10 games in the regular season, 4 in the playoffs. I think that he did look like a guy who's figuring this stuff out. I think he still has some issues in terms of being a bit over-aggressive at times, but I think that, that is a transition that they're making, and I think it's a smart one in the long run. I think that it will put them in a good position to have that kind of edge in their fights. But Yeah, it's tough because even, when you say it was a boring offseason, like I don't know if there was any move they should have made. Obviously, this team made it to the finals. They were a good team. So I think that it was the right call to be boring in that regard. But at some point, you have to ask yourself the question, well, how do we beat TSM? And I think the answer for Cloud9 fans now is going to be, well, we were just like one play away. If they don't engage in that fight with the Elder Dragon and Jensen does win that championship, I think we feel differently about this whole situation. And we can't ignore the fact that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Like, he was at the center of the play that went wrong, and we have to take that into account. But I don't want Cloud9's entire season to be defined by just that one moment. They still got to the finals. They still got their way to Game 5. And I think that they're still a team that we're going to have to be aware of, and will be at the top of the table, towards the top of the table next season as well.
Absolutely, but the problem is, it's just like in Europe. You got to beat G2 for me to actually be like, okay, yeah, they're true contenders, and they didn't beat TSM, and they didn't beat a weakened TSM. And let's go ahead and talk about TSM.
Yeah, because you did not have them at the top of your table. You had TSM.
What are you talking about? Of course I had them at the top of my table. There was only 9 teams.
Yeah, people are probably trying to figure out, did we skip a team? No, we did not skip a team. We're getting there. But let's talk about TSM right now. You had some words about the jungle situation in TSM, so let's go check that out now.
Svenskeren was a guy before the World Championship. I was thinking, like, okay, we're going to the offseason, like, give me Dardoch. Dardoch's out of Team Liquid. Going to be out of Team Liquid. Give me Dardoch. Give me Dardoch. Give me Dardoch. And then he played at the World Championship, and he was the best Western jungler that was there outside of Jankos. And even Jankos, it took, like, the end of the tournament to really elevate him. He was playing like a man possessed. He was playing like one of the best imports that you could get in North America. Just a fantastic player. He's slimmed up. He looks leaner. I've been watching him stream in the off-season. He looks really good. He looks really happy. He's enjoying kind of the new jungle and some of the interesting things he can do. Him and Bjergsen just have this awesome synergy. So, like, as much as I dislike Wild Turtle, I still have the best player in the West, and now this guy that's emerging as his wingman and might be a top 5 player in the West, for all honesty.
So, yeah, Svenskeren was a monster, Walter. Those were your words there. Do you think that do you still feel that way?
No, I would like you to focus on the other part of that sentence that said, give me Dardoch, give me Dardoch, give me Dardoch, give me Dardoch, because that's all my thoughts on TSM going into this offseason. It was, Svenskeren was a big issue. He was more of an issue than Wild Turtle. And please, God, give me Dardoch, give me Dardoch, give me Acadian, give me Dardoch, give me Acadian, give me somebody, give me good. Come on, I want Acadian, I want Dardoch, give me one of the two. Somebody, please, listen to me. Reggie, I wear the jersey all the time. Like, just sign one of them. Just trade for one of them. Let Svenskeren go back to Europe and play for Fnatic and just have an amicable split, please. But, like, give me Dardoch. Give me Acadian. Give me someone. Give me someone young that now Bjergsen can mold again, because this is what he does. He takes these young, aggressive junglers and he molds them into supports for him, and then he throws away the husks after about 2 years. Because he's drained all their life force out of him. He's like, I'm done. I need more. I need more sustenance. I need someone else to help me. You come here. You come here. He totally has embraced the Reginald model of absorb the life force of everyone around him to maintain his peak condition.
Yeah, I was going to say he's kind of a vampire that way, in that he just sucks the blood out of his jungler and then calls it a day. I mean, look, I thought that TSM was going to be second as well, because I had Cloud9 coming out on top. I was this close to being correct, so I don't feel bad about that prediction. I do think, when in doubt, trust TSM, because they're the best team in North America historically. They've won a crazy number of championships in that region, and now they have double lift again. So things are about to get really scary for the rest of NA, unless there are significant changes or pretty big steps forward from the rest of the league. There was one team, Walter, that you thought was going to make a pretty big leap. You really ended up liking this team. When we did the actual episode on it, I think maybe you were a little bit more hesitant than you ended up being when we did our final prediction. So let's see what you said about your pick to be our champions for this season, Dignitas. That's right, it was Dignitas. Let's check it out.
Keane does worry me slightly in that regard. It's why I don't want to be like, yeah, they're going to win a championship. But, like, out of any of the teams that made a change, like, these guys have a pretty large variance. I think they could be anywhere from winning the championship at the end of the split to, barely hanging on, like a 7 seed, maybe the 6 seed. Like, they have a really large variance in that way. And some of that's also going to depend on how well some of these other mid-tier teams and teams that made changes around them are. But if things break their way, there's definitely a chance these guys are finals bound. If things don't break their way, there's definitely a chance they just, they pull the old Dignitas and they're out in the first round of the playoffs.
Gun to your head, which way does it break? I'm not letting you get out. You can't just give an entire 6-point range. I'm putting you in. What do you say?
Semifinals.
There you go.
That's
where I put him as well.
Gun to head, third, fourth place match. Split the difference.
Yeah. So how about that Dignitas bet, Walter? How you feeling?
Hang on one second. My lawyer's back. I gotta just talk to him real quick.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I know I can take the fifth. What if I don't want to? I totally understand that, the only reason I put them at number 1 was because they had really, really good on the Unicorn outrights. Yeah. And if I gambled on them to win North America, I kind of have to put them at the top of the rankings, right? Well, yeah, absolutely. Of course, that's what makes sense, because then I'm kind of a fool. If on one ranking I say, no, they're not on top of it, and then I gamble on them, and yeah. Okay. So what's your advice? Okay. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes, under advice of counsel, I will be taking the 5th.
I see. Well, it turns out, Walter, I don't know if you know this, but you are allowed to bet on what are called underdogs, because if they surprise you, then you get value, and if they don't, it's okay. Kind of like how you bet against SKT in MSI. Like, I don't think you believe that SKT is going to lose. You just think there's a chance of it.
Just 1 second.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I understand that this time I picked SK to be best in MSI. Oh, okay. Yeah. Under advice of counsel, I will be taking the 5th.
Yeah. Well, I had them finishing 7th. They took 5th. So they are more in line with where you are talking about them now. I think that it's unfortunate that some of these pieces didn't come together the way that we might hope. Someday, he's a very good player, but he needed some help. Keane was not quite as much help as maybe one of us in this call thought he was going to be. So
just 1 second.
Yeah,
Yep.
Of course. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I know. I know. I thought that Keane might be the 3rd best mid laner in North America. Yeah. No. I understand that he hasn't proven anything over the course of his career other than that he's a great anti-carry. Yes, I realize that there's a character in Dota that's named Anti-Mage. Yes, and I realize that's not... Yeah, he's not in League of Legends. Okay, I got you. Under advice of counsel, Keane will be MVP of the NALCS 2017 Summer Split. Thank you for your time. That's it for all the questions. You guys have been great. I will be directing all of the questions to my lawyer.
Well, there you go. I think that that is a prediction that I would love to see somehow work itself out. But we are going to have to wrap it up for now. We'll get to hear your predictions for the summer later, Walter. But for now, where can the people at home find you if they want to hear your thoughts and feelings about MSI and everything else? Oh, okay.
Yes. You can find my lawyer at Ceades_LOL. Again, thank you all for your time.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm at RedShirtKing. You can find me there, and I also read all of the comments, so you should definitely check that out. It would appear that what was apparently a press conference has now ended, so I'm just going to say thank you guys so much for following all the stuff we did, this split. We had a wonderful time creating content for you guys, and we want to get a handle on what content you want us to make for you going forward. We have a lot of ideas for things that we think would be fun, but we do this podcast because we love giving the people what they want. So we're going to include a survey. It's going to be in the description here. There's probably going to be an annotation right along here or so if Walter remembers to put it in properly. So absolutely, if you guys could just fill that out. It takes like 30 seconds, and you would be telling us like what it is we can do that you guys would like to see, what it is we should never change, and what it is that you think would maybe help improve the pod if you have some ideas on that. So absolutely do that. And stay tuned here because we have more MSI things. We've got a Guardians of the Galaxy 2 podcast coming at some point this week. And we just, we're excited for May 21st. The day of the MSI finals will be the first day of our LCS team by team previews. So until next time, for both Walter and myself, goodbye, Internet.
Hey there, Ceades here. Thanks for checking out the podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, consider supporting us at www.patreon.com/roughdraftspod. For just $1 a month, you can join your fellow listeners in our patron-only Discord channel and help keep the content coming, or join our VIP club where $1 a show or $8 a month gets you first priority on all patron content like our patron-only Q&As. And check us out on all of our social media, Twitter @RoughDraftsPod, Facebook.com/RoughDraftsPod, SoundCloud.com/esportsroughdrafts, as well as on iTunes and YouTube by just searching for the Rough Drafts Podcast. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, Internet.